It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
A fine Saturday matinee to you both. Steve, Andy, good morning.
Hi.
Thank you. Just in time for summer.
Oh, what an explosive day we have today. It's Saturday matinee. It's erupting with vitality and excitement. How are your movie lives? Good?
Yeah, it's been a busy week, so I got into a little Columbia noir there last night, but I think it was Sunday. I'm trying to remember, because the Discord stuff, I have these memories now where I don't know, I can't distinguish between whether it's a conversation we had on Saturday or if it was discussion and debate that was happening on Discord because of the whole raunchy comedy thing with Booksmart. So I think I saw that on Sunday. I don't remember what day I saw it, but I saw it. And I don't remember if I talked about it here, or if it was just all that fun discussion on Discord about
you hadn't seen it yet.
Okay, so I did see it on Sunday, and I loved it. But I got to get my kids out to see it. I thought it was going away because the Harkins Theater, like, they don't post, like, on Tuesday still, you don't know what's going to be there on Friday, which is this whole, like, I want to buy advance tickets for stuff, and for some things, I don't know. And so I thought it was gone because when I looked for Friday, it was like one theater and way out somewhere, that was it. But now it's there, so they can go see it, because so far, Tommy, Andy, and I give it 5 stars. I don't know that we're the target demographic for this movie, but we love it.
I was going to say, who's it for? Like, what was the verdict after the grand raunchy comedy poll? Is Booksmart a raunchy comedy, or how young a teen can see it?
It's all in the eye of the beholder, apparently, on what makes things raunchy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was
right.
I think the
was
word
there a verdict? I don't know if we came to a conclusion, but
no.
Because it also, like, is it only comedies that are raunchy? Can a straightforward film still be raunchy? Like, I don't feel like we ever.
Oh, I love a good raunchy horror movie. Yeah, I don't know.
I think raunchy, by the fact that raunchy is a comedic word, I think it has to be associated with
it's not in the definition.
Otherwise,
the definition is earthy,
sexy,
vulgar, and often sexually explicit. That's it. Now, earthy,
vulgar, and sexually explicit.
Yeah.
I've never, come on, tell me you don't associate raunchy with pretty much just comedies.
I do. Like, you don't say, that was such a raunchy drama.
Yeah. Right.
Well, we're going to now, because you defined it as
this is shaping my worldview a little bit. I'm not kidding.
I know. It's very interesting to kind of come to these conclusions. If we did learn anything from the poll, it's certainly, Ferris Bueller, not raunchy. The American Pie films are raunchy. Same with the Porky's films. Yes. There's something about Mary. Sing Street is not raunchy.
Sing Street? How did Sing Street get on the list?
People just could put what they wanted on the list. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That one, I had a few back and forths, but I think mostly it came out not raunchy. Booksmart did land on the let's see, one person voted not raunchy for Booksmart and one person voted raunchy.
So
you didn't even vote, nothing. Steve.
The poll, it got weird because so much stuff got put in there, and I'm like,
not raunchy.
People. Well, I think somewhere at the point the word crass came out, and I think that is the piece that for me is the pivot point on that, when you can have humor around sexual subject matter, but it's how it's treated. And I think that's the thing when it's like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that's not a movie that's, I guess, crass or ridiculous, but it takes on that subject matter straightforward. There's humorous moments, but the way it treats that subject, it's still like very realistic, as opposed to just, I don't know, like almost cartoonish clownishness. When I think of things like Sausage Party or, those types of things where it's crass, it's just in your face. And for me, Booksmart isn't that type of movie.
Well, there's some pretty. I mean, I voted on the raunchy side on it because there's certainly conversations. There's a, and I'm like, it's definitely on the sexually explicit side of things, and I mean, it's the sort of thing that people who are uncomfortable with that are just gonna not want to watch it or walk out because it for me, I would say it crosses the line. Not that I'm fine watching that. I don't have an issue, but still, I can see why some people would be uncomfortable and say, you know what, this isn't for me.
So it's perfect for me and my 13-year-old is what you're telling me.
Yes.
As long as you're sitting at opposite ends of the theater, because there will be awkward moments where, your teen will be like, I don't want to be near you while I'm watching this.
Excellent.
Go sit different, or sit a couple rows in front. So it's not like you're watching your child react to this movie. They can be seeing you, but they've got that buffer zone or cushion of like, you're not reacting to them watching the movie to see how much they're laughing at some things that you might not want them to be aware of.
New sanctioned next reel product, teen movie blinders. But they're really for parents. You put them on just like they do for horses, right? They allow you to focus your attention just on the movie. Perfect for that widescreen aspect ratio, and yet you can see nothing to the left or right. TNR store today.
Isn't that how you watched what was it, What Happened to Monday? Weren't there blinders on where you were like, we're not Steve, looking at each other
I'm so
while
glad
we were
you brought
watching
this
that?
up. No, this is the other way to watch this movie. Where I just my son had the iPad. He had gotten distracted. And this was he got distracted. I mean, he was so into this game that he was playing that he missed the explicit sex going on screen right above him. And I knew that if I touched the remote or paused it, then he would notice.
Yeah,
and so I couldn't. I was paralyzed. I was absolutely paralyzed. I mean, when was that? He was probably 11. I'm a terrible father. Terrible.
So now, does he know that he missed out on this? I mean, is this something that's okay? Good, because that's something that could be very scarring. He could get bullied at school for like, dude, your dad was watching like explicit sex stuff, and you didn't even look up to see it.
One day, I just know he's going to come in from school and just stare at me. Just, Dad. Really? I just feel like this moment is coming.
It's going to be the same moment when you were a kid and your parents walked in and you were watching a movie and they walked in on that one scene and they're like, what are you watching? Gosh. And you like totally shocked. I swear
that happened to me.
It's just this one part.
That happened to me so many times in high school because I worked at the video store. I would bring home things and it would be like...
So my entire youth was raunchy and crass.
There you go. It's raunchy and crass. There you go. Yeah. Oh,
that's pretty good. Well, we're gonna say we started. I've started watching Game of Thrones season 1 with my daughter, who has read all the books and everything, and we did sit down last night and watch episode 2. And if you don't remember episode 2, it's a very, very sexy episode there's a lot of Khaleesi sex in that episode. if it's been a while since you've seen it, and there we are. So I had to go through. We're just sort of diving right into that father-daughter watching sexy stuff on screen together, and we made it through. There was some really, and she likes that. So those are some selected comments from my daughter.
See, that's not a thing, Pete. What? That's not a thing. Father-daughter sexy time TV watching is not a thing.
This is why we get these inspirational products like the movie blinders. This would have been perfect for me last night. I need this. Why doesn't it exist? TNR store. Immediately.
No, see, there's things where you just say, you should watch this. I don't want to be anywhere near you while you're watching this, but just let me know that you're watching it, and we can have a conversation afterwards. Because, Because that's my comment to you is your daughter, ew, she likes that?
That's what she said.
Like being in the room with you watching that? No.
So there's no way she liked it at all. Nobody liked it. Of course we didn't. And in fact, I would be surprised this morning if we didn't take the gaslight approach. Wait, what's this Game of Thrones? I've never heard of that show. What'd you do last night? Kind of a thing. We'll see how the morning. It's still early. We'll see how it shakes out.
She just won't make eye contact with you at all. It's gonna be like, oh
yeah, it's gonna be a hell of a summer.
2 episodes in, lots more to go.
What kind of news do we have this morning? The only thing I brought is Marvel news. That's all I could obsess over. So do we have anything non-Marvel to talk about?
I don't have anything. Go for it.
Because of your parade this morning?
That's right.
That's right.
Well, okay, the easy bit of news is if there's one thing that is more exciting to me right now than Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is weirdly not that exciting to me right now. I want to be more excited for it, but I'm not. It feels like there's just kind of one sort of ride, and mostly it's very expensive things to buy. So I'm working to build my excitement. Then I read this: Disney finally gets permits to start building Marvel Land, and it's under construction, and now walls labeled Stark Industries have gone up all around where Heimlich's choo-choo train used to run. That's not going to be there anymore. Sorry, Heimlich. The Bugs Life is looks like it's going away. The Bugs Life effort.
It was for really little kids. It was a very young kid area.
Yes. So lots of new things. And unlike the Star Wars effort, you go to Marvel Land, you're going to get some rides. You're going to get rides from Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the Avengers. And that includes, obviously, that's one that's already there, the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, which is essentially Tower of Terror with some new logos on it. I guess I never really enjoyed that one, so I didn't.
Well, you're wrong.
I don't know what the change was. Well, you're wrong. Awesome. Thanks. So very excited to hear that this is happening. So who knows when it's going to, these things take years and years and years, but looks like it's very exciting. Going to start seeing lots of Avengers stuff happening as the builds have launched. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, did you guys see the massive Phase IV leak about what's coming next in the MCU? Have you seen this?
I heard that something had come out, but I didn't fully hear about all this. So do tell.
Well, I'm going to talk about it. And so if you don't want to know the movies that are coming or any of the things that are coming around, just skip to the next chapter, because I'm going to talk about it because I'm very excited about it. And a little bit Italian, as it turns out. I'm going to have a spicy meatball.
He's thinking about Stromboli.
Spider-Man far from the Stromboli. Okay, so here's what we know. That none of this is confirmed, but it is a massive insider leak, apparently posted on Reddit. And so what do you think? Number one, Norman Osborn is expected to become the main antagonist in what they're calling the Grounded MCU, and should appear in several movies, beginning with Far From Home. So that's very exciting. Norman Osborn is a character I like very much. Glad to see that he is moving from into the MCU. What do we think about Norman Osborn? Do we love Norman Osborn?
We didn't have any hint of him in the last Spider-Man film, did we?
We did not. I don't believe we did.
So it'll be, was there even Oscorp? Was there even like a building with Oscorp in? I'm trying to remember, because I know the character wasn't there. I'm just trying to remember if Oscorp was a thing. And I'm totally blanking right now.
I don't recall, and it'll be several years before we're able to peel it apart minute by minute to actually answer that question. So put a pin in that. But the other part of that rumor and the way it looks like they're going to tie into the next phase, and part of the reason I imagine we have heard nothing about this so far, is that it is Oscorp that is going to buy Tony's tower now that the post Endgame. So that is going to be the new cityscape landmark, is this big Oscorp building. So that's very exciting. We have Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pratt have several more movies in their contracts, which I did not know this about Chris Hemsworth. I thought he was still, or he had moved to film negotiation, but he is still on contract. Chris Pratt obviously still has several more. Thor should appear in Guardians 3 and Thor 4. And it looks like Star-Lord will be in other MCU movies after the Guardians trilogy ends. Nothing about the other characters in Guardians of the Galaxy, just so far Star-Lord. So that's interesting to me, too. And then we have this giant list of titles for the next chapter. Here we go. I'm excited about many of these. Spider-Man Far From Home, obviously, we know about Mysterio. We have a little bit of a reveal that, again, Oscorp has purchased Stark Tower. This is big with the Elementals. Black Widow is the next movie after that. Florence Pugh is introduced as Yelena Belova, the new Black Widow. So we have a new actress. The Eternals, Richard Madden is playing the main character Icarus. The Eternals will be pivotal to cosmic MCU as they continue to invest in space. So that's good. Here's one that I would like your comment on. Black Panther 2. Killmonger will appear in the spiritual plane. Queen Divine Justice will be featured. Movie will be political. Killmonger in the spiritual plane. So I read this and I was initially disappointed because I feel like that movie had such a sweet and beautiful ending, and that character of Killmonger, I think it just needed to end where it ended. So obviously a lot we don't know. Killmonger could be in the spiritual plane for 35 seconds in Black Panther 2, but that was my initial response. Do you guys care about that?
I think it makes perfect sense in context of the story. All of their ancestors are in the spiritual plane. We've seen them all. So I think it's a great idea, actually.
And what it doesn't tell us is, is he just, is he a central character somehow in the spiritual plane? The spiritual plane suddenly becomes
and we
more
know
than just an advice plane.
We know they're very much two sides of the same coin. So, it could be very much kind of like Yoda and Obi-Wan, except this is somebody who's kind of, pushing T'Challa, with kind of psychological games and stuff in there. So I think it could be really interesting.
Yeah. Shang-Chi, and this is one that here's one we talked about a lot over the last 6 months. The Mandarin is rumored to be introduced as Shang-Chi's father in this movie. So here we go. We might finally get our legit Mandarin.
Guy Pearce?
Yeah, right. Right. That will be interesting to see what comes of that. Doctor Strange 2. Lord Nightmare will be the villain. Mordo will be a complex, sympathetic antagonist like Loki. Clea and Brother Voodoo will be featured. Asian actresses eyed for Clea. Parts of the movie will be set in the 1980s. All right. I'm sort of done with the 80s period superhero movies. What am I doing? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
The one that's been done, that did it in for you?
I think it's safe to say I was done like in the first 20 minutes of that. I was there.
You were done with the 80s when the 90s started.
The 90s started, right. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the High Evolutionary will be the main villain and Rocket's creator. Rocket will fall in love with another of the High Evolutionary's experiments, Lila. Drax will find out that his daughter is still alive. What? Star-Lord and Nebula become closer as they search for Gamora. Thor will be in the movie and meet Beta Ray Bill, who might be another of the High Evolutionaries' experiments. Quasar and Adam Warlock were also rumored to appear, and Zac Efron is reportedly eyed for Adam Warlock. Interesting. Lots of little spoilery things. Who knows if those are going to come true, but that's very exciting. Loki anthology chronicling how Loki shaped human historical events.
That's a TV show.
Okay. And the same with, these are all, you're right. All of these next 4 are the TV shows. Hawkeye has to come out of retirement again when troublemaker Kate Bishop begins running around claiming to be the new Hawkeye and gets into trouble with the mob. I'm very excited about that. Supernatural mobster The Hood and Hawkeye's evil brother Trickshot might just appear. Very exciting. Falcon and Winter Soldier. Falcon and Bucky have to work together with new government-sanctioned Captain America to stop terrorists from destroying the United Nations. New Cap eventually goes psycho, and they have to stop him. Seems like it'll lead to Sam becoming the new Cap after all. Well, that's interesting. I like it when they say things like, New Cap eventually goes psycho. I'm sure that was in the treatment. WandaVision. Vision gets rebuilt. Wanda tries to give him a soul and instead gets possessed by a dark force. Allegedly, it's more of a psychological thriller with a 1950s aesthetic. Wanda and Vision end up living in the suburbs where the neighborhood is racist against Wanda's robosexuality. I'm sure that was in the treatment, too. The witch Agatha Harkness might appear. And that is all of the news.
Peter, right.
Yes.
You trust the internet? You trust stuff that's on Reddit that comes from 4chan? No, I'm not buying any of this. There was some credible stuff, but then you get to the robosexuality and I call Fooey on this. No, this is fan fiction. I don't think this is actual. No.
Well, I'm just saying this is what's reported. I'm sharing the news, and it's actually there is enough sort of credible thread in here to start. That's what they do, right? They give you something that's credible, and they lure you in, and then then by the end you feel like you have to believe it. That's how fake news develops, Steve. That's why I'm susceptible to it. Well, we'll see. We'll see. As soon as some of these things start playing together. Richard Madden,
yes.
Florence Pugh,
yeah,
like all of those little pieces are going to start falling into place very, very quickly.
Oh yeah.
So
we will see.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bits of information in there that have been reported in a lot of other places, a lot of magazines and stuff. So I mean, the rumors are flying around, and I mean, these casting decisions and stuff. I'm sure that they're real. I just don't know the exactly what the story content is with some of these.
Right.
Well, and the idea that they're going to start weaving in some characters that we've seen a long time. I think I'm probably most curious about the Mandarin. How are they going to make that fly in the MCU new canon, given what we already know about what they did to the Mandarin story?
Yeah. Well, and I haven't seen that anywhere else in relation to Shang-Chi. So that's something that I wonder a little bit about as far as its credibility.
Could be fake news, but it could be very real. And I think Shang-Chi is rumored to be raunchy, as is WandaVision. Falcon and Winter Soldier is just crass.
Yes. Well, then you didn't mention Captain Marvel 2. That's something else that's already been in the works.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Lots of stuff, and I'm looking forward to kind of all of it. It'll be fun to visit all of that as it starts rolling out, and making some people happy and some people rolling their eyes.
What? Me?
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about you, but there are plenty of people in the world who are like, oh, more Marvel. Oh, don't we have enough superhero movies?
Oh,
no, we don't. We absolutely don't.
No. I'm not rolling my eyes about more Marvel. I'm rolling my eyes about, fictional Killmonger and spiritual planes and all of that. There was speaking of Marvel news and people being sick of Marvel and all that, there was an interesting article over on The Atlantic about Jessica Jones season 3, and they sort of tracked the whole Marvel Netflix deal and what that did for Netflix and how that thing sort of slowly fell apart. And what I found interesting was the showrunner on Jessica Jones actually had decided season 3 was going to be her last, and had just told everybody that, you know, she was going to be stepping down after that season and was looking to find a replacement, and then they canceled. So she said, I put all my crew through all this stress and anxiety, and then they canceled it. You know, so they do have season 3, but that's, you know, as we know, that's the end of it. But it's an interesting article worth reading in terms of just looking at where Netflix was at that point when that started, and now where they are now in terms of original content. Because at the time, this was a really big deal. They didn't have that many shows. Now it's like Netflix is pushing out new content left and right, but this was the big ordeal of, you know, something new that we had not seen before. And now it looks like Hulu's the next one where Netflix is sort of infiltrating and producing original content. But it was an interesting article worth a read if you're interested in reflecting back on those early days of the, you know, Netflix Marvel
Something
universe.
I don't like that Netflix does is they basically have created a model where they prefer quantity of shows, like quantity of content, rather than the quality, like allowing a show to kind of continue. They are perfectly content running a show for just a couple seasons and then canceling it, just so they can have more variety of content, because the more variety they have, the more people they can draw in. But then they're not giving these shows the chance to kind of continue and develop into something that could have a nice long run. It's an odd model, and it's kind of frustrating because they see the opportunity in just having more shows rather than allowing the shows to run longer. I find that kind of frustrating.
Well, I sort of like some of the short.
I don't mind it if it's designed that way, but I don't like it if people have this big vision of like, oh, let's do this big, big story arc. And then Netflix is, after a couple of seasons, they're like, okay, we're going to stop this one. It's like,
yeah,
very frustrating.
Well,
it's very frustrating.
It happens everywhere. It happens on, network TV as well.
Well, but it's more of a model that Netflix has taken on very quickly because of the fact that that's their whole design is, they need to appeal to more and more people. And so they're like, well, if we let's get some Marvel, let's get some horror, let's get some documentary, let's get some of this, let's get some of that. And they just kind of, flesh out their variety of shows, their content, just so they can have the variety. And then they don't continue it. And it's, I just find it frustrating.
Yeah. Well, they've got to be all things to all people because that's their business model. If they don't bring in new audiences, their revenue flatlines.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I think we should do trailers, but first I have to say, for those who remember that classic Next Reel episode where we took on Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet. Remember that? Zeffirelli, the king is dead. Passed at age 96 5 hours ago in his home in Rome. So, controversial theater, opera, and film director died peacefully. And there you go. Thoughts are with his family.
Indeed.
All right, let's do trailers. We have no rules. Therefore,
there are no rules.
There are no rules. Therefore, order of post reigns. I think that means Steve.
Oh, that does mean me. Okay. Oh, well, I'm getting my document open with my...
You don't even have the document open?
Well, okay, here's the thing. I have a running log of going back to my first SatMat with you guys, which was... I don't have a date on that first entry, but it looks like it was September several years ago. So it's a 45-page Google Drive, Google Doc that, takes a little while to load because I put in your lists and everything. This is where I got to go get my, trailer picks. I pull out of this as well sometimes. So, all right, here it is. All right, here we are. What are we doing? We're talking about a trailer. We're talking about...
The anticipation is killing me, Steve.
You're about to lose your first going opportunity.
Both of you just watched this 30 minutes ago? Okay. This is After the Wedding. Now, what's interesting about this, because I think this trailer got mentioned somewhere in Discord, and Andy said, oh, no, but I've heard about the movie that it's based on. It's an original foreign film, so this is possibly a Trailer Rewind double feature comparison episode. But this is After the Wedding. Bart Freundlich is a writer-director who started with a film that got a lot of attention back in the late 90s, The Myth of the Fingerprints, and struggled for 20 years to build on that success. And looking at his, the films he's done, I'm guessing it's sticking with only directing things that he has written. So here's something I'm hoping that will be more successful for him, because it's an adaptation of a film written by Suzanne Bier. So it's a thriller mystery. It's got so much stuff in it that looks like my type of thing, where we've got someone trying to get fundraising for an orphanage, Michelle Williams, and she shows up and is at a wedding, and there's people she knows there, sort of an unexpected, possibly, running across an old friend. But there's buried secrets, there's some hidden relationships, there's something going on here that I'm looking at, how does this all play out in this film? Great cast. I'm very excited about this one. That's what, drew me to this is, the cast and a nice trailer that doesn't tell me everything that's going on. And so I'm very excited about this one. Going to be hitting theaters August 9th, 2019. And I'm very optimistic and hopeful for this one. What did you guys think?
I haven't heard of anything about either of these. So I watched this trailer completely new to it. And Billy Crudup really does look great. They call it out in the trailer about what a good looking man he is. The dude's aging well, let's just say. Yes. Especially because we just watched your favorite film, Almost Famous, where he was also handsome and long-haired, and so that was delightful. This is one of those movies where I expected it to be, we were gonna go out, but you never called, and it was going to be dumb, and there is nothing in the way this trailer wraps up that indicates that that is the storyline. There is some serious drama going on in this mystery, and I'm here for it. I think it looks great. But to your point, I am now very interested in the original film. Mads Mikkelsen in the original. I'm in both of these. I'm setting up for a double feature.
Yeah, I've been kind of going back and watching some of the films nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars, because there's a lot of really good stuff out there, and I've totally missed it. This is one of those. It's been on my radar for a while now as something that I've been hoping to watch soon. I just haven't quite gotten around to it. And then I saw that they were remaking it, and I'm like, oh, wow, I really need to watch this soon, because it just, I think it looks just like a really interesting, complex story, and I'm very curious about it. Obviously, it's other people thought so too, because they have now remade it. So it's definitely something I'm going to check out, and hopefully soon. So maybe it'll be this should be a double feature series at some point. Pete, some foreign films and their English language remakes.
Language remakes, yeah. Agreed.
Could be interesting. Of course, there could also be some terrible ones that we're watching. Why did they remake this?
There's plenty. Yes. So why did they ruin it? Oh, there's a long list of those that I could give you. Yes.
We'll kick it off with The Vanishing.
Yes, and you can follow it up then with what is it, Nikita and Point of No Return? Yeah.
Oh, I'm there for that.
Throw that in there as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're halfway done with that.
What's your trailer?
I'm very interested and excited about this one. It is the cinematic adaptation of Stephen King's novel Dr. Sleep, the sequel that he wrote to The Shining. I knew that he wrote this. I actually have the audiobook. It's been sitting around waiting for me to listen to it. I just haven't yet. I think that this is going to be the impetus to get me to listen now, because watching this trailer, I was very excited. I was very confused. A lot of things went through my head as I watched this trailer. I think it looks great. I think that it just has this really creepy vibe to it. This is, now we have Ewan McGregor as the grown-up Danny, now going by Dan, and in this film, that's kind of this follow up to kind of what has gone on with him since all the horrible stuff happened at the Overlook back when he was a child. This film, what confuses me about it is I know that Stephen King was not a fan of what Stanley Kubrick did with his book when he adapted it, and he was very much behind the TV movie adaptation that happened in the 90s that I think was just a giant mess. I mean, I shouldn't say it's a giant mess. It was a TV movie quality, and then that's, I think, one of the most unfortunate things is that it had a very TV movie feel to it. The most unfortunate part of that whole film for me was the casting of Danny. That child actor was just really not a good actor, and it just really, I struggled with that. But so Stephen King, he was behind that one, and really kind of tried to make it as closer an adaptation to his original novel. And, I think to that end, he succeeded. It was. What this is, it actually looks like, and it's Warner Brothers behind this, like it was with the original. It looks like they are doing kind of a direct sequel to the original. At least they're showing clips of it in the trailer that make it seem like it really is kind of a sequel to The Shining. And I don't know how Stephen King feels about that. Like, I'm like, was that his intention? I'm really surprised. Or they're only kind of hinting at certain elements of the original Shining? I don't know. Regardless, I think it looks like a really interesting film. And, Stephen King's cinematic adaptations can be pretty crappy sometimes. But I think that there are some that they've done really well. And, I don't know. This is one I hope that works really well. I hope it works in context of the original Shining, because I think that Kubrick did a great job with it, even if King doesn't think so. And, I don't know. I just hope that this one doesn't turn into something that just is not that interesting. So, I guess we'll see. What do you guys think of this trailer?
I was excited by the trailer, and then I saw that Akiva Goldsman is a producer on it, and I just rolled my eyes, and I thought everything he touches turns poopy. It just does. And so, but he didn't write it. I'm hoping it's just a distant association with it, because I am really intrigued by this. As you said, pulling in the footage from this Kubrick's The Shining, which again, it reminded me of Ready Player One. It's an iconic movie, and so if you're going to do a sequel, you have to know that that's a touchstone for people when you talk about The Shining and that character. Whether, people may not have read the book, but they know those scenes from the movie. So I think that's something that may have been a difficult decision, but you have to consider that's what your audience is expecting walking into this. It's the kid from The Shining, that Jack Nicholson movie, and now he's all grown up. But I haven't read the book, but now this is one where I thought it's an interesting, Stephen King doesn't do a lot of sequels. I mean, he does a series, but this, the fact that there's such a large gap in time between the two novels, I'm intrigued with what extra story he wanted to tell with this character. What did he want to do? So I'm very much intrigued by this. So I've got to get some summer reading to do here.
So the 1980 film was remade by Stephen King in 1997. So my hunch is that a skeleton Stephen King is going to give us a television miniseries of Dr. Sleep in 2036. So be ready for that. This is the thing that makes me nervous, which is Mike Flanagan talking about all of this. This is what he says. He says that Dr. Sleep will, quote, acknowledge Kubrick's The Shining in some way. that it is an adaptation of the novel Dr. Sleep, which is Stephen King's sequel to his novel, The Shining. But this also exists very much in the same cinematic universe that Kubrick established in his adaptation of The Shining. And working with all these sources, he says, reconciling all these at times very different sources has been kind of the most challenging and thrilling part of this creatively for us. Emphasis mine. That makes me nervous that there's just a lot he's trying to do to be deferential to all of these different, contributing sources. And I don't know that always makes for a great result in a property that is, for lack of a better word, beloved.
Well, what I like about that is he's actually having conversations with King as he's going through and kind of working on how to adapt this. So I think that there's something to that I think is a strength that might, because honestly, sometimes Stephen King's own decisions in his properties, it doesn't always work out for the best when they're going into theaters. And so I think that sometimes outside, an outside approach can help. And so, I'm really curious about this, and I don't know. I guess we'll find out in October. This is going to be a fun Halloween release for most of the world, October 30th. Here in the States, it opens November 8th, a week later.
My trailer this morning is Official Secrets, which is an American-British political thriller. It's directed by Gavin Hood, stars Keira Knightley, Matt Smith, Matthew Goode, Adam Barkey, and Ralph Fiennes. And it is the true story of Catherine Gunn, who is a former British translator. She's not former British. She's a British former translator for the Government Communications Headquarters, British intelligence agency, and she leaked top secret information to the press, concealing illegal activities by the U.S. and their push for the war. Why is it, you guys, that I can't think of the name of the other movie that it wasn't? What was it? I want to call it Newman, the Oliver Stone movie Newman that we did on the show. What was that called?
You said Newman.
I know. Now you're bored.
You do that.
What was it called? Steve, come on. You got it on the tip of your tongue. The computer guy. The computer guy with, my name is the computer guy, and I'm going to sneak secrets in a Rubik's Cube. Snowden. Yes. I prefer to call it Newman from now on. Newman, give me that Rubik's Cube. Okay, so that's what this is. It's essentially the British side of the patriot who leaks information to the press in order to, tell the truth, do good deed, prevent a war. And we sort of know how that went, but the story, I think the trailer actually looks pretty good. It is predictable insofar as it's a true story and we know how it turns out. But I think the performances that are showcased in the trailer look interesting. I think it's always nice to see Keira Knightley not in something related to pirates. I'm glad she's moved on from that part of her career. And Ralph Fiennes is, he's the statesman now. He's puts on the British suit, and I like seeing him in these roles too. So I think it looks really good, and I hope that it hits you guys better than my trailer did last week.
You could argue she's a pirate, Pete.
Andy, look what you did. Oh, well played.
This looks thrilling. I hadn't heard about her story. And so, especially with this cast, it's a fantastic cast. What's interesting is that they had already planned on making this like 3 years ago with Harrison Ford, Anthony Hopkins, Paul Bettany, Natalie Dormer, and Martin Freeman, and Gillian Anderson. So very interesting cast. It never ended up happening. And but this one I think also has a great cast and looks like a really interesting story. I am very excited about it. I want to learn more about this story. And Gavin Hood, I think, has directed some things that I haven't been a fan of. I wasn't huge on Ender's Game or X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I heard nothing but good things about Eye in the Sky. I just haven't gotten around to seeing that before. And of course, Sozi, he won an Oscar for that one. So I think that there is opportunity that this could be something really interesting, especially in context of films like Eye in the Sky that he directed, that it kind of fits in the same vein as this one, kind of that political thriller. So I don't know, it could be a really interesting one. I'm very curious.
Yes, I'm excited about this being a potential trailer rewind because I don't know how big this is going to hit theaters, but it's a story that I love stories like this where we're just far enough past events that we can go back and start telling stories, and there's more information that's sort of trickled out that because it wasn't in the headlines, people have forgotten or weren't paying attention to. So I'm always intrigued by sort of revisiting recent history and telling those stories.
Very exciting. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I feel like this is a redemptive trailer pick for me.
Yes, it is.
August 23rd in the U.S. it opens. And then, let's see, UK, October 18th, 2019, with Greece, Russia, the Netherlands in there, but no other international release dates in the works so far. Nothing for, let's see, Australia? Well, probably sometime around there, but just not listed on IMDb. So that's what we have. Let's talk about Lava.
Yes. This week we're talking about Stromboli on the main show. And, with that, we put the vote out there. And for the list, people really wanted to hear us talk about active volcanoes. What I really am finding that I love about these lists that people are picking, Pete, is you now have taken it upon yourself to start watching more films, that just so you can kind of have more options to talk about. I think that's, if nothing else, that is a great result of these SatMat lists.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Andy. That has been the most exciting part, except for the fact that, my God, I'm staying up too late on Friday night, you guys. This is awful. Our day ends, and at 10 o'clock, I start watching a stupid volcano movie. I'm exhausted for these recording sessions, but sometimes you find gems, as I feel like I did this week. So I believe it is, I hope it's not a steal, because I watched the damn thing, and I'm going third this week. So that makes me super nervous, but especially so we'll see how that plays out. Steve, I think the bidding begins with you.
Yes, it does. And it took me a while, and I had to do some searching and, to find, because only a couple things came to mind. But then as I spent a little bit more time, I'm like, oh yeah, there are volcanoes in these movies. But I'm going to, it sounds like you're getting your own rule now of like, when there's a list, Pete has to watch a new movie. So I'm going to, do my list, which is I'm going to include an old show always, whenever I can. But this one is hilarious, Pete,
the
because
Steve corollary.
Yes, exactly. Because I love pointing people towards the old shows, and this is an old show. And I went back and listened to the Joe versus the Volcano episode, you guys.
There we go.
Oh my gosh. You start that show, Pete, talking about how you're so excited because you're starting to watch this show, Game of Thrones. And then you talk about the oatmeal. You talk about the oatmeal cartoon about, you can't get Game of Thrones. Then you start talking about how you're excited that Apple TV has updated to 1080p, up from 720.
Wow.
Yes, that's how long ago this was.
Oh,
this
my
was
goodness.
There was no theme song, there was no flick charting or profit per finished minute or any of that stuff. But in the next episode, because it just went and started the next episode, Andy starts off on this whole crazy rant about cost of a movie per finished minute because of, you guys had mentioned, you had mentioned Cat in the Hat, and then I said, hey, did you guys know that movie cost more per minute to make? And then Andy went in research mode and had a list of 50 movies and how much they actually cost per finished minute to make. And it was Tangled. I was like, oh
yes.
it was a nice little nostalgia road there.
Wow.
But it was great hearing you guys talk about Joe versus the Volcano and how much you love that movie, because it's ultimately quotable in our house. And for people that haven't seen it or are new listeners and haven't heard that show, which is episode 25, you guys, episode 25. Yes. Go back and listen to that one. It's a young Pete and Andy starting off with movies we like. But when we do volcanoes, I can't not talk about Joe versus the volcano.
Wow, what a trip.
Yes. But it's hilarious that you talk about Game of Thrones and that just today you were like, starting with my daughter. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how old was she in 2012 when you started watching Game of Thrones?
Well, she's 17 now.
So she was at what, 10?
10, yeah. I didn't start. The way you put that, it sounds like I started watching Game of Thrones with her when she was 10. Let me assure you, please
you did not.
Don't call House and Human Services.
No, you started watching on your own. And now 7 years later, you're sitting down with her to start it.
Yeah. It's a circle of life.
Well, I'm glad Joe is on the list, even if it is something we've talked about on the show. But anytime we get to talk about that movie and direct more people to it is a good thing. Because everybody really should see that movie because it's so good.
It's so good.
And it's a volcano in the title. Of course, it's a perfect one for this because it's so good. All right. Well, for my first one, I am jumping back a little bit to a film that I watched as a kid and just endlessly would revisit because I had such a fun time with the giant mutated animals, with the submarine, with everything going on in The Mysterious Island, Cy Enfield's film from 1961. Based on Jules Verne's novel that's, kind of a sequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, as they eventually find out when we find Nemo on this island. The movie is about some prisoners in a Civil War camp who escape in a hot air balloon, get caught in a big storm, and then land on the titled island, the Mysterious Island. They find all these giant animals and all this stuff, and slowly and eventually Nemo and everything. And it's such a fun movie. And of course, the island is a volcano, and of course, it's erupting and causing all sorts of issues, and they have to escape. The great thing about it is the fantastic Ray Harryhausen work with all the giant animals, the giant crabs and dodo birds and everything else. It's such a fun movie. It's a little slow paced. I tried watching with my kids. They were a little bored by it, but I don't know. I think just for me, revisiting it as a film, I still just, it brings back a lot of memories from my youth. I just really enjoyed that film. So my first pick, Mysterious Island.
I want to watch this again immediately.
So fun.
So fun. Kids, what do they know? Nothing.
All right, Pete.
Okay, so I'm going to open with this, just in case it's a steal, even though of the three that I have picked this week, this is not my number one, and that is The Devil at 4 o'clock. The Devil at 4 o'clock. You guys, if you had told me that Spencer Tracy and Frank Sinatra starred together in a Mervyn LeRoy movie, about a volcano, I would have slapped you in the face. Of course they didn't. That's ridiculous. Why would they have done that? And it turns out you would be totally right. This is one of LeRoy's later movies. I think it's probably 6 more, it looks like, until the end of his directing career. Devil at 4 o'clock. Spencer Tracy plays a drunk priest, and he is the sort of, I don't know, we'll say commissioner, the adopted commissioner of a leper colony on an island. They chose to build the leper colony literally on a volcano. Like, there was no forethought about this active volcano. It's a smoking, and they say, let's put the lepers on a volcano. So that's the premise. And then we have this sort of We're No Angels thing where Frank Sinatra plays one of 3 wonderful felons who are flown into this island for a stopover, and they start as kind of the comedic outlet for the film, and they're just fantastic. They put them to work. The volcano goes crazy, and it ends in one of the most rewarding and kind of heart-wrenching speeches of Spencer Tracy praying to God on this volcano. And it's just weirdly satisfying. It's wildly satisfying. I had so much more fun with this movie, probably because I just didn't expect it. Devil at 4 o'clock, it's great. You got to see this movie. Now, the volcano effects is why we show up for these things, right? And this movie, they commit to the volcano effects and the miniatures, and they blow stuff up, man. You stay to the very last frame because this island does not fare well. Just saying, does not fare well. Devil at 4 o'clock, 1961.
The people who live on Stromboli probably should watch that and go,
they should have watched this. They should have seen this coming. It is prophetic. You guys haven't seen it, please?
No.
So worth it. Whole thing's on YouTube.
The way you described it, though, I could not have been surprised if in the late 90s, early 2000s, Con Air 2, The Devil at 4 o'clock would have been in theaters. Got Nicolas Cage got to save the kids from the island, and
the leper kids. It's got to be
the leper kids. Yes, exactly. Well, we might have to update it. It might have to be something else.
Because we're not allowed to say leper anymore. I'm only saying that enthusiastically because they do in the movie. Kids with measles. Put the measles colony on a volcano.
Yes, there we go. Oh, yes.
Oh, man. All right, Steve. What's your second one?
My second one, I totally forgot there was a volcano in this movie. It's been forever since I've seen it, probably at least 10 years. It's one I saw with my kids. And it was so much fun, and I haven't seen it since then, but this was back when Gerard Butler did like fun kids movies and has Jodie Foster in it and Abigail Breslin. Have either of you guys seen Nim's Island?
I have, and I loved it.
No.
Yes. I totally forgot about the volcano.
It was a favorite of my kids when they were little, my daughters when she was younger.
Because she's trying to chase the tourists away by, making them think it's a volcano, and actually sets off a volcano. So yes, there is a volcano in this one, but I remember having so much fun, and it's just my kids got older and I had no reason to revisit this, but I've had so much fun with this. If people haven't seen it, I think it's just such a fun family movie. There we are, Nim's Island.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice story, the way that it unfolds and everything. There's some good stuff going on in it. I really enjoyed the characters, and I haven't revisited it in a while either because my daughter, it kind of fell out of favor with her as well, and so it just hasn't played in our house. But there was some nice magical moments with it. So
yes, exactly. And I discovered there was a sequel.
I didn't know that.
Yes, but then with totally different cast.
Sure, straight to video.
Straight to with Brandy Irwin, Steve Irwin's daughter. As the grown-up Nim in that one. So,
gotcha.
For those with younger kids, might want to do a double feature. There you go.
Well, sticking with the theme that I already started with, Mysterious Island, in my last pick, my second choice is. So I feel like I've talked about this before, and I don't know. I have no idea what list I put this on, but it's Journey to the Mysterious Island.
That's a steal. It's a steal. I was almost going to do that, but I said, Andy already did Mysterious Island. I'll sort of take that as a steal, and I'll go somewhere else. But then he just flat out steals Journey to. No, that's like a guilty pleasure. I don't know. It
totally is. It's so much fun, and it's so much better than the first one. Oh man, I tell you, Journey to the Center of the Earth was, that film was really rough. I just did not connect with that one at all. As fun as Brendan Fraser can be.
Yeah,
this one, Journey 2, I had so much more fun with. It's of course Dwayne Johnson, Michael Caine, Josh Hutcherson, Vanessa Hudgens, Luis Guzman is hilarious in his role.
He's hilarious.
Oh my gosh!
I have just it really is kind of a guilty pleasure. It's a really fun one to watch with the kids, and it's fun the way that they've kind of created this cinematic universe out of Jules Verne's novels and made them as if he was actually exploring and had found these real places.
Yes.
And was kind of writing these books to kind of as guides to these actual things. And it's just fun. I have so much fun with them. And I really do hope that they get around to doing the third one, the Trip to the Moon. I think it will be just a fun trilogy. The first one being the rougher one, but they're just fun. Brad Payton did it, and it's a lot of fun. And yes, there is a good old volcano that does go off on this island. So that's my second pick, Journey to the Mysterious Island.
Andy with the illustrious double steal.
Double steal.
That is a raunchy double star right there, and crass.
All right, Pete.
My second pick. I started high, as I said, but my whole approach was my favorite volcano effects, and I really enjoyed The Devil at 4 o'clock, 1961, blowing stuff up. So let's just start there. For my second pick, I'm going with volcano effects and incredible abs. This is not a good movie, but the volcano effect is obscene. It is Pompeii, 2015, staying with the Game of Thrones themes that seems to be permeating this entire thing. Stars Kit Harington. This is not a great movie, but it has some incredible blowing of stuff up. They talk about committing to destroying a city with a volcano. This movie does it. Again, you know how it's going to end, but do you know who's going to burn up? Do you know who's going to get buried in ash? Have you seen that fantastic sequence when what's his name? Abacus? We'll call him Abacus. I don't even remember his name, but
Newman. His name's Newman, maybe.
Newman, Abacus Newman. He holds his fist up and says, "For those of us about to die, we salute you," to the volcano. Come on. If that isn't a Michael Bay moment, I don't know what is. And then he gets just pummeled by ash and flaming boulders. This is a movie that I think it does an exceptional job of showcasing the artistry and the CG stuff. The smoke looks good, the fire looks good. It's exhilarating and incredibly destructive. Where it goes bonkers is the water. The ocean stuff is, I find, completely unbelievable, which is ships flying into the city. It just doesn't. That part doesn't hold up. But if you want to see a great volcano, Pompeii's your place.
I mean, that's what that movie's all about.
People,
yes, it is.
All right, Steve, what's your final pick?
Okay. So I was trying to find, because I had Journey 2, I had Nim's Island. There's always volcanoes are everybody's got to run away from them because it's going to destroy everything. And I thought there's got to be a volcano movie where there's a volcano that's not like a natural disaster movie, right? There's got to be something where it's not, we've got to escape from the volcano. It's how about we're going to the volcano purposefully to destroy a ring. Return of the King. There's a volcano because that's where they got to go to destroy the ring. And I thought that it's the one thing that stood out. There's a volcano there, but it's not a natural disaster movie. There's so many out there. I had to do something different. And I checked. You guys haven't talked about this one. And it's been quite a bit of time. Fits in. And I had a feeling it wasn't going to be a steal because it's not the typical volcano movie you think of. That's my final pick. Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
It's a steal.
Oh, it is. Okay. All right.
But that's okay because the one that I'm going to talk about instead, I think it should be on this list. And I actually am surprised it hasn't come up yet because I think that the volcano, it's treated differently kind of. Well, Return of the King is kind of just a very specific journey to it. This one, in a way, it kind of is a journey to a volcano kind of thing. But as we find out, the volcano is kind of its own kind of ocean god that needs to be calmed down. And it's by Moana. And it's a really beautifully done kind of sequence when Moana kind of confronts this Te Kā, I think, at the end of the film. And it's beautiful the way that the whole thing kind of happens as she kind of, I don't want to spoil the end of the movie, but it's this big confrontation there. And it's done in a way where it feels like you're kind of watching kind of a Polynesian myth kind of take place on the screen. Like it feels like this is kind of the way that they would talk about the story of a volcano and how it created an island and life sprang from it and all this sort of stuff. But it's just done so beautifully, and the way that the song hits and everything, it's a beautiful film. I really love Moana, and anyone who hasn't seen it should check it out. It's just so well done. And weirdly, I now have kind of a odd thread connecting my movies, because I've got Mysterious Island leading to Journey to Mysterious Island with Dwayne Johnson, who's in Moana. There you go.
And it's a steal.
And it's a steal.
And
a lot of stealing going on today.
I don't know. Is that a sign of just like absence of creative thinking? I don't know. No. Or anyway, that leaves me diving into my my backup list, which is not satisfying. And I'll tell you where I went with this is where I actually started with my research on this particular thing. And it's a totally predictable pick. In fact, somebody in Discord already suggested, I'm sure this will be thrown in. And it is Volcano, the Tommy Lee Jones thing. There isn't actually a volcano in the movie. It's the La Brea tar pits that starts erupting. And it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, so I don't remember a lot of details. The whole reason I'm picking this is because I read a fantastic, one of those fantastic like link bait, clickbait articles, that the internet has become famous for, by a volcanologist who said, okay, this is where I'm going to lay it all out, where these movies get these things right, and started talking about, the science, the kind of ash, the kind, using all of the words and all of these movies that he just really loves and hates. And most of them he hates until he gets to Volcano. And he says, there is so much wrong with this movie, and it's my favorite of the entire bunch. So this is in celebration of the volcanologist pick. It is Tommy Lee Jones in Volcano. It is better, he says, from the perspective of the science than Dante's Peak, which is just terrible. The thing that he says is the most wrong with Volcano.
Boiling in a hot tub in that one, though.
Right. The thing that he says is so great about Volcano is that individually, all of the aspects of Volcano the scientific aspects are right. They would never occur all together like they do in this movie, and that's the thing that makes it absurd. But at least individually, they threw in, it's like a boggle of all the scientific concepts around ash and lava and molten things, and so I thought if there is a reason to celebrate the Tommy Lee Jones vehicle Volcano, that's going to be it. So it's going to end up on my list. The volcanologist vote.
That's hilarious.
That is.
What I actually liked about that is just that, the movie itself wasn't very good, as I recall, but I liked that it was like, it seemed like, okay, if there's a rupture and the all these, the earthquakes and everything shift just the right way, it seemed like, that one felt a lot more believable, weirdly, which seems strange to me, but
it is weird. That's exactly the pick. And that's I think what he was getting at, like trying to legitimately make a case that says, you know what, it could start this way. You know what, if it started this way, this thing could happen. It happens completely unbelievably in this movie, but it's worth, thinking about. It's a 50% fresh. That's not great. It's not great.
Awesome.
All right, what are we doing this week?
So we're looking at Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. So we've all seen at least one of those versions, if not both. So I feel like we should be able to come up with something for this week's list. I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like we've done trains before. It seems like we could certainly go that way. We've got murder. We've got Agatha Christie. We've got multiple murderers. I don't know. What do you guys want to do?
all of those things, I think we're kind of in, as I was thinking, like, well, we have to do trains, something about trains.
Oh my God. We've done train movies before, and I have not seen any of them.
Oh, that's right.
Steve, you need to get on the Pete bandwagon and just watch a bunch of train movies all week.
Just see what's on YouTube. Watch these sketchy train movies. Yeah.
Raunchy train movies. That's going to be the first.
Oh, raunchy, because
are they
can't
crass?
undress. They can't undress a child. We know that.
Okay. So then, I think trains as like the setting for Trains and Murder. I don't know.
Trains and Murder.
Is there what's the Agatha Christie angle? What were you getting at with that?
I don't know.
Best Agatha Christie?
Just Agatha Christie.
We could, I would have to watch it a lot more to actually feel like I could put that, because I think I've only seen one other Agatha Christie movie.
Great cinematic stabbings.
Hey, I like that one. Let's put that on the list.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's going to be our list next week. All right.
Yep.
Why are we even continuing this
why
charade?
Yes.
I liked the train angle, but I don't want to bog Steve down if he hasn't seen enough.
I know.
And we've done it before. We've done train movies.
Well, is there an angle to trains we haven't done? How about, I feel like there's something where, it's a group of strangers who are thrust into a situation together that they have to deal with.
I like that.
Do you know what? That is going to be, we need to call that strangers on a, quote, train. And you can insert whatever you want in the...
There you go. Yeah, strangers on a...
quotes. Okay. Strangers on a boat. Strangers in a car.
Yes, I like that.
Okay.
And then cinematic stabbings and...
Cinematic stabbings, the one we're going to be doing.
Yes. And then...
one more.
Detectives with fantastic mustaches.
Oh, mustachioed detectives.
Or just we could just do great mustaches.
You could do great mustaches.
No.
Yes.
Oh, Andy, you are in contention for next week's list. Cinematic stabbings. I don't know which one I would pick.
Right.
Is it the stabbings, the mustaches? What do we do?
Oh, yes. God, that's so funny.
Stabbed by a mustache.
Okay. All right.
Oh, well, that's
I'm done.
I think
Were you not being serious? Because I'm done.
I'm totally serious. Great cinematic stabbings, strangers on a, insert your pick here, and great mustaches.
Do you know, I actually think there are 9 different movies that involve all 3 of those things, and I'm going to find 3 of them.
I love it. Well, the list is up in the Show Talk channel, everybody. So head over there, get your vote in. We can't wait to find out what you really want to talk about. It's like Pete said, it's a tricky one. There's some fun options. So get your votes in.
Get your votes in. All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us this fine Saturday morning. It's time for breakfast here.
It's time for breakfast here, too. We're in the same time zone now, Pete.
It's past breakfast time, you guys.
Hey,
yeah. Andy had breakfast, then saw a parade, and then came to record the show. That's how Mr. Nelson rolls.
That's my morning, yep.
I know you guys don't follow this, but I will just say, as a little addendum to all of this daylight savings stuff, Oregon passed the permanent daylight savings bill, whatever that is.
Oh, really?
But it will only go into effect if California and Washington do it too. So it's the peer pressure daylight savings thing, and it sucks because now we know that we want it, but nobody else will do it unless it's terrible. So that's where we are. Can't wait to join you guys. Maybe.
That's not peer pressure. That's we really like this, but only if everybody else likes it too.
You're right. It's the reverse peer pressure. What is that? It's the codependence.
Yes, that's the
Anyway.
Codependent legislation. Yes, there we go.
That's right.
Where does Arizona fit in all this? I mean, in some way, I feel like we're still patient zero, even if it's a very slow process to actually get everybody on board with us.
Just be patient.
It's not patient zero. It's Arizona being stubborn of like, no.
we were actually patient 50.
Nobody can tell us. Yes. No one's going to tell us how to do things.
We're progressive again.
Right.
right, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for your support over at patreon.com/thenextreel. We sure appreciate it. And you pay for a production of this show. You pay for our time. You pay for our hosting. You pay for equipment. Thanks for participating and hanging out with us. We sure appreciate it. Share the love. Have a great weekend, everybody.
See ya.
Hondo.